While much of the attention this month has been around Donald Trump's indictment in the classified documents case, there are also new developments in special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into the former president for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Yesterday, a high-ranking Trump 2020 campaign official testified before a federal grand jury in the probe. Former Deputy Director of Election Day Operations for the Trump campaign, Gary Michael Brown, was seen entering a Washington, D.C. courthouse where a grand jury has been hearing testimony about efforts to stop the peaceful transition of power to President Joe Biden. Last year, the House subcommittee investigating the attack subpoenaed Brown after finding, quote, credible evidence that he played a key role in the so-called fake electors scheme. That evidence included this text message where Brown allegedly bragged about being the one to hand-deliver the alternate slate to Congress. Both Brown and the special counsel's office declined to comment on the appearance yesterday.
I would ask you, John Meacham, to put this into historical perspective, but there is no historical perspective when you have a president who's actually been indicted for hush money payoffs. You've got a president who's been indicted for stealing nuclear secrets. You have a president who's being indicted for stealing secrets on invading Iran. You've got a president indicted for stealing other military secrets and highly classified documents. You have a president indicted for obstruction of justice. And now you have a president. We were talking about the Supreme Court. I mean, the Supreme Court, who, again, out of control, running roughshod over the will of the overwhelming majority of Americans. And now we have this president, again, unprecedented. But here we are moving towards, I believe, I think the most serious charges and the one that I think historians are going to be grappling with long after we are all gone. That is a president charged with conspiracy to commit sedition against the United States of America.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and you're right, historians will be wrestling with it. And as we all do all the time, I think citizens have to wrestle with it now, right? It's so central. And I just really believe that we have a pretty clear choice in this political season. We can choose a constitutionalist, a party that has been pretty faithful to the Constitution, which is the party of the incumbent president, or we can favor a party that has been shockingly but persistently supportive of a insurrectionist or a seditionist. That's not a sentence we would have said about Eisenhower and Stevenson, right? That was not something that a lot of people grew up with, but it's pretty vital. And you have to ask the question: is any policy so important that you would want to favor someone that you think is a vehicle for that policy, even if they don't and have self-evidently tried to trash the Constitution of the United States? And we could go on, but that's really kind of it. You know, it's pretty basic. Do you want a constitutionalist or do you want an insurrectionist? And, you know, then we get into the but, taxes and judges. Mm-hmm. If we don't have a constitution, taxes and judges aren't going to matter at all. That's where we are remarkably right now. And again, we could go on, but I think it's a fundamental question. And people often say, you know, it's simple. It's not simple, but it is straightforward. That's the choice before the country.
You know, it's so fascinating. You know, people come up to me and go, you know, you used to be a conservative, and are you a liberal
all
now?
All the time.
And I say, well, what would you like to talk about? And we finished talking about my issues. I go, you're pretty conservative. I go, yes, please. You need to frame this correctly. And I'm dead serious about this. Yeah. It's people who support democracy, constitutional democracy, versus people who are anti-democracy, who are against constitutional norms, who are willing to throw constitutional norms out the window for Donald Trump, who are willing to just turn a blind eye to January 6th insurrection because of Donald Trump, who are willing to say right now, as Speaker of the House, that it's okay that Donald Trump stole nuclear secrets. I mean, this is Democracy versus anti-democracy. I'm going to say one of the things that really has surprised me over the past several years. I've been bitterly disappointed by friends who were fellow conservatives who've completely crumbled and are now part of the anti-democracy forces, and they are. You can judge them, not just by their words, but more importantly, judge them by their deeds. Judge them if they want to hold Donald Trump accountable. Now, when Donald Trump, you take Lindsey Graham. I came in 1994 with Lindsey Graham. I always considered Lindsey to be a friend of mine. Lindsey Graham, he supported Donald Trump through Donald Trump saying he wanted his attorney general to arrest Joe Biden and Joe Biden's family 2 weeks before the election. Supported him through all of that. Supported him through the first impeachment, where he held up money and defensive weapons to Ukraine, trying to get dirt on a political opponent.
Right.
And then on January the 6th, January the 7th, he opposed him. And then he was chased down a national airport by 3 people and a hound dog. And suddenly he went back to supporting the anti-democracy candidate.
I think it's more than that.
There are other. No, he's
knowing Donald Trump.
He's scared.
It's more than
no,
that.
it's not.
It's always more.
Listen, everybody always says it's more than that. It's not. It's not more than that. They're not scared of Donald Trump. They're scared of their base. They're scared to be leaders. They're scared to stand up in a town hall meeting and tell people something that people may not want to hear. Keep their head down and continue telling them that. They'll be surprised if they do that, what happens. But they never take that chance because they're such cowards.